Imagine watching someone wake up at 4:47 a.m., not because an alarm forced them, but because their body no longer knows how to sleep past that time. Imagine watching them move through the dark in complete silence, no phone, no distraction, no negotiation with themselves about whether today is the day they take a break. They don't think about it. They don't feel it. They just move, like a machine that has long forgotten it was ever human. That's not motivation. That's not willpower. That is something far more terrifying and far more powerful. That is the scariest level of discipline you will ever witness in another person. And here's the thing, what makes it scary isn't the 4 a.m. wake up. It's the fact that they cannot stop even if they want to. The identity has fused with the behavior. The person and the practice have become one. Today we're going to go deep into that. We're going to understand why most people stay stuck in the cycle of starting and quitting, and we're going to reveal the exact psychological shift that turns ordinary people into the kind of consistent, focused, almost frightening examples of self-discipline that the rest of the world watches in disbelief. Stay with me until the end, because the last concept we cover will be the one that changes everything. Let me introduce you to someone. His name is Raphael, mid-30s, smart guy, educated, motivated, at least in bursts. Every few months, Raphael would get fired up by a book, a podcast, a speech, or maybe just a brutal Monday morning staring at a life that wasn't matching the picture in his head. And every time that fire lit inside him, he'd launch. New workout plan, new journaling habit, new morning routine, new diet. He'd go hard for 3 days, sometimes even 2 weeks, if it was a particularly good month. And then, like clockwork, he'd stop. Life would happen. A late night at work, a social event, a bad night of sleep. One skipped day would become two would become a week, and before long, the habit was gone. The journal was collecting dust, the running shoes were back in the closet, and Raphael was back on the couch watching other people's highlight reels on the internet, telling himself he'd start again on Monday. Sound familiar? Of course it does. Because Raphael is most people. Raphael is the version of ourselves we desperately want to stop being. And the tragic part is, Raphael genuinely believed his problem was motivation. He thought if he could just find the right book, the right hack, the right system, the right supplement, he'd finally crack the code of consistency. He spent years chasing better strategies, better planners, better routines. But here's what no one told Raphael. His problem was never the strategy. His problem was identity. Let's talk about the secret that the most successful, most consistent, most scariest disciplined people in the world are hiding in plain sight. Not in their strategies, not in their morning routines, not in their journals or their cold plunges or their 75 hard challenges. The secret is in how they answer one simple question. And that question is, who are you? Think about how a typical person answers that. I'm someone who's trying to get fit. I'm working on being more disciplined. I'm trying to build better habits. Notice the language. Trying, working on, attempting. That language is the language of someone standing outside a house, peering through the window, the window, hoping one day they'll be let in. Every morning they wake up and ask themselves the same question. Am I doing this today? And that question, that single seemingly innocent question, is the root of every failure. Now listen to how the scariest disciplined people in the world speak about themselves. I'm someone who trains every single day. I'm a writer. I write. I don't miss. Full stop. No trying. No working on. No hoping. They have made a declaration, not to the world necessarily, but to themselves about who they are. And once that declaration is made, behavior aligns with identity automatically. This is what behavioral psychology calls identity-based habit formation, and it is the single most powerful force in human behavior change. When your identity says, I am a disciplined person, missing a day doesn't just feel like laziness. It feels like a betrayal of self. It creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. Your brain literally cannot reconcile the behavior with the belief about who you are. So it corrects. It wakes you up early. It makes you train when you're tired. It makes you write when you're not inspired. Not because you're disciplined, but because you believe you're a disciplined person and your actions must match your beliefs. Jim Rohn understood this decades before the modern self-help industry did. He said it simply, you must constantly ask yourself these questions. Who am I around? What are they doing to me? What have they got me reading? What have they got me saying? Where do they have me going? What do they have me thinking? And most important, what do they have me becoming? The question is always about becoming, always about identity, because results follow identity. Not the other way around. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Identity alone isn't enough, because you can tell yourself you're a disciplined person all you want and still crack under the pressure of a difficult Tuesday. What transforms identity into bulletproof behavior is systems. Specifically, systems that remove the one thing that kills most habits before they ever get going, the daily decision. Think about how much mental energy you spend every single day deciding what to eat, when to work out, whether today is the day you meditate, whether you feel like writing, all of that deciding, all of that negotiating with yourself. This is called decision fatigue. And research from behavioral science shows that the more decisions you make throughout a day, the lower the quality of each subsequent decision becomes. By the time you get to your evening workout, your brain has already spent 1,000 tiny decision coins, and it simply doesn't have enough left to override the couch. The world's most productive people solved this problem decades ago, and they solved it with one of the most powerful concepts in habit formation, the fixed schedule. Same time, every day, no exceptions, no renegotiation, no let me see how I feel. This sounds almost aggressively simple, and it is. That's the point. When your workout is at 6 a.m. every morning, you don't have to decide whether to work out. The decision was made once, weeks, or months ago, and it's never revisited. When your writing happens at 8 p.m., you don't have to motivate yourself to write. You just go to the desk at 8 p.m. and begin. The schedule removes the decision, and when there's no decision, there's no negotiation. And when there's no negotiation, willpower becomes irrelevant. This is the paradox of freedom that most people never understand. Fewer choices create more consistency. When you constrain yourself to a fixed time, you're not losing freedom, you're gaining it. You're freeing your mental bandwidth for the things that actually matter. Now let's go deeper, because there's an ancient philosophy that understood all of this centuries before modern neuroscience caught up. In Zen Buddhism, there is a concept practiced by Zen monks and certain traditional Japanese arts called gyoji, or sometimes referred to as the Gujoji system, a philosophy of continuous, unbroken practice. The principle is deceptively simple. You do not simply practice a thing, you practice it the same way, in the same sequence, at the same time, through the same ritual, every single time, without exception. This isn't just about building habits, it's about removing the self from the practice entirely. In Zen, the biggest obstacle to growth is the ego, the part of you that wants to negotiate, that wants to feel like doing it, that wants to skip when it's inconvenient. The Gyoji system eliminates the ego from the equation. There is only the practice, there is only the sequence. You follow it not because you want to, but because you are a practitioner, and practitioners practice. Apply this to modern life, and it becomes extraordinary. Instead of, I'll do my morning routine, you adopt a fixed sequence. Alarm sounds, feet hit floor, glass of water, movement for 20 minutes, journal for 10 minutes. Begin work, same order, every morning. No variation, no choices embedded in the routine. The sequence becomes so ingrained that deviating from it begins to feel wrong, like wearing your shoes on the wrong feet. The discomfort of breaking the pattern becomes greater than the discomfort of following it. This is the level of habit formation that most people never reach because they keep changing their routines, keep optimizing, keep tweaking. But optimization is the enemy of automaticity. Every time you change the routine, you're forcing the brain to consciously re-engage with the behavior. You want the opposite. You want the brain to switch to autopilot. And autopilot only activates through same sequence, same time, unwavering repetition. But what about the days that get hard? What about travel, illness, exhaustion, family emergencies, the kind of days that make every productivity system in existence crumble? This is where most discipline frameworks collapse, because they rely on the assumption that you'll always have normal days, and you won't. Life guarantees disruption. The question isn't whether disruption will come. The question is what happens to your consistency when it does. Here's the principle that changed everything for the people who eventually became unstoppable. They stopped thinking about consistency as all or nothing, and they started thinking about it as continuity. There is a profound difference between those two things. All or nothing says, I either do the full workout or I skip it. I either write 1,000 words or I don't write at all. I either follow the diet perfectly or the day is ruined. All or nothing is a trap. It is perfectionism disguised as discipline, and it kills more habits than laziness ever has. Continuity says something completely different. Continuity says, even on the worst day, I maintain the thread. One push-up, one paragraph, 1 minute of meditation, one sip of water instead of the sugar. It sounds almost insultingly small, but that's the entire point. Because the moment you let one day break the chain, you've created a new psychological precedent, a neural pathway that says, we skip when it's hard. And that pathway gets stronger every time you use it. Never miss, not once. And when life makes the full practice impossible, scale down, but never out. The Zen masters had a phrase for this. Practice doesn't require perfection, it requires continuity. That is the most underrated sentence in the history of self-development. Perfection is the performance. Continuity is the identity. And identity, as we've established, is everything. Now we need to talk about the weapon that separates the truly elite from everyone else who's read the same books, heard the same advice, and still somehow can't make it stick. That weapon is called pre-solutions. Here's how it works. You know, right now before you even begin, what is going to try to stop you? You know the obstacles. You've hit them before. Late nights at work, social pressure, bad weather, low energy, emotional slumps, travel, injury. You've met every single one of these villains before, so why are you walking into tomorrow without a plan for each of them? Pre-solutions is the practice of building if-then responses for every predictable obstacle before it arrives. If I have to stay late at work and miss my 6 p.m. workout, then I do a 20-minute bodyweight session in my hotel room or living room before bed. If someone invites me to a late-night event on a Wednesday and I have 5 a.m. training, then I leave by 10 p.m., no exceptions. If I'm sick and can't do my full routine, then I still sit at my desk for 10 minutes and do the minimum version. Psychologists call this implementation intention, and the research on it is staggering. Studies show that people who write specific if-then plans are 2 to 3 times more likely to follow through on their intentions than people who simply set goals. Why? Because you've eliminated decision-making under stress. The most dangerous moment for any habit is the moment when you're tired, frustrated, and have to decide in real time what to do about an obstacle. Pre-solutions take that moment away. The decision has already been made. You don't think, you execute the plan you already built. This is how elite athletes maintain training through illness, travel, and emotional chaos. This is how published authors hit deadlines even during personal crises. This is how the scariest disciplined people you've ever seen seem to be completely immune to the disruptions that derail everyone around them. They aren't immune. They just prepared for the disruption before it happened. Let's talk about the power of public declaration, because this is the piece that most people skip, and it is one of the most effective psychological tools in existence for building and sustaining consistency. There is a well-documented phenomenon in social psychology called the commitment effect. When you make a commitment publicly, when you state your intention to other people, you create a social identity around that commitment. Breaking it now doesn't just mean you failed a personal goal. It means you've contradicted the version of yourself that you presented to others. And human beings will go to extraordinary lengths to maintain consistency between who they tell others they are and who they actually are. This is why the most successful people in any field have often made their commitments public before they had the results to back them up. They didn't wait to be successful before declaring themselves. They declared themselves and then had no choice but to become it. The declaration came first. The identity followed. The behavior aligned. The results appeared. The public declaration made giving up more painful than continuing. Read that again. When you tell 10 people that you're training for a marathon, you've raised the cost of quitting. It's no longer just a private deal between you and your future self, which, let's be honest, your present self doesn't care much about. It's now a public identity, and public identity has teeth. You don't have to announce your goals on social media. You don't have to broadcast your journey to strangers, but find your people, a friend, a coach, a partner, a community, and make the commitment real by saying it out loud. Let someone else know who you're becoming. And then let the social accountability do what willpower never could. We're getting close to the core of everything now. But first, let me paint a picture of what happens inside a person when all of these pieces, identity declaration, fixed schedule, same sequence, unbroken continuity, pre-solutions, public commitment, come together at once. Something shifts, something profound and permanent. The person you were, the one who negotiated every morning, who asked, "Do I feel like it?" who quit when things got uncomfortable, that person begins to disappear. Not gradually, suddenly. There's a moment different for every person, where the practice stops being something you do and becomes something you are. Where the consistency stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like oxygen. Where missing a day doesn't feel like rest, it feels like suffocation. This is the transformation that Raphael eventually found. Not through a new strategy, not through a better planner, but through a single terrifying decision to stop being someone who was trying to become disciplined and to start being a disciplined person. To make the declaration, to build the system, to never negotiate, to never skip, to pre-plan every obstacle, and to make his commitment visible to people he respected. The first 2 weeks were brutal. The next 2 weeks were hard. By the second month, something strange happened. He stopped fighting himself. The internal war quieted. Not because the days got easier. Some days were still impossibly hard. But because the version of himself that wanted to quit had been starved of the one thing that kept it alive, the daily choice. Remove the choice and you remove the negotiation. Remove the negotiation and you remove the possibility of failure. Normal people get normal results. That quote sounds harsh, but it's the truth. Normal people negotiate with themselves. Normal people skip when they're tired. Normal people wait until they feel ready, until the time is right, until the stars align and motivation shows up uninvited. The people who achieve extraordinary results, the ones who write books, build companies, transform their bodies, build wealth, create art that moves the world. They don't wait for any of that. They created a system that runs on identity, not emotion. Let's be direct about something. The version of discipline we've been talking about today is not comfortable. It is not popular. It is not the kind of thing that gets you invited to parties or makes you the most fun person in the room on a random Tuesday night when everyone wants to stay out late. It will cost you something. It costs everyone something. The question is whether what you're building is worth the price. And here's what I want you to understand. What you're building is not a workout routine or a writing habit or a meditation practice. Those are the outputs. What you're actually building is a new self, a version of you that is more capable, more reliable, more powerful, and more free than the person you are today. Because here's the profound paradox at the heart of all of this. The most disciplined people in the world are also, in the deepest sense, the most free. They don't spend their days in internal conflict. They don't carry the weight of unkept promises to themselves. They don't live in the low-grade shame of knowing they're capable of more, but consistently choosing less. They are free because the decision has already been made. Every morning is not a battle. It's just Tuesday, another day of being exactly who they decided to be. So where do you start? Right here, right now, not Monday, not after the holidays, not after this busy season at work. Now, because the day you start is the day the identity begins to form. And every day you wait is a day you spend reinforcing the identity of someone who waits. Step 1, make the declaration. Decide who you are becoming, not who you're trying to become, who you are. Say it out loud, write it down, tell someone. I am someone who trains every day. I am a writer. I am someone who does not miss. Claim the identity before you feel you've earned it. That's how identity works. You declare it, and then you build evidence. Step 2, set the fixed schedule. Pick the time, make it sacred. Protect it like it's a meeting with the most important person in your life, because it is. It's a meeting with the future version of you that you're building. Step 3, build the same sequence. Don't vary it, don't optimize it, don't change it when you get bored. Boredom in a routine is a sign that it's working, that your brain is being relieved of the burden of decision. That's exactly what you want. Step 4, write your pre-solutions. Right now, list every obstacle that has stopped you before. For every obstacle, write an if-then response. Make it specific. Make it executable. Make it so clear that when the obstacle hits, your brain can follow the plan without thinking. Step 5, never miss. Scale down, not out. A 1-minute habit maintained forever is 1,000,000 times more powerful than a perfect habit abandoned after 3 months. The goal is not intensity. The goal is continuity. Here's what they won't tell you in the motivational speeches. Here's what gets left out of the highlight reels and the transformation before and afters. The scariest level of discipline isn't found in the 5 a.m. wake-ups, or the ice baths, or the 0 sugar month challenges. The scariest level of discipline is found in the quiet, unglamorous Tuesday afternoons, when nothing is exciting, nothing is new. There's no one watching. There's no progress milestone to celebrate, and you do it anyway, because that's who you are, because there is no other option. You stop being someone who tries and become someone who simply is. That is the transformation, not an upgrade in strategy, not a better app, or a better planner, or a better accountability partner. A death and a rebirth. The death of the person who negotiated, the birth of the person who simply acts. It's not about discipline, it's about death and rebirth. The consistency that makes other people uncomfortable, that makes them ask, don't you ever take a break, with a mixture of admiration and unease. That consistency is not born from motivation. It is not sustained by willpower. It is the natural expression of someone who has resolved the deepest internal conflict a human being can have. The conflict between who you are and who you could be. When that conflict ends, when identity and behavior become one, the discipline you produce is no longer effort. It is simply you. And that is the scariest thing about it. Not the early mornings, not the sacrifice, not the rigid schedule. The scariest thing is that it looks effortless from the outside. Because for them, it is. Consistency isn't about doing something every day. It's about becoming someone who can't do it any other way. That's where we're going. That's what we're building. Not a habit, a self, not a routine, an identity, not discipline. A way of being so deeply embedded in who you are that the world will watch you and feel exactly one thing. Fear, the good kind, the kind that makes them quietly wonder what they are capable of, and whether they are brave enough to find out. Now go, not tomorrow, now. The version of you that does not negotiate is waiting, and it has been waiting long enough.